Hey everyone, welcome to today's story. It's a journey that many might find intense, filled with love, betrayal, and a twist that no one sees coming. Imagine building a life with someone, only to find out a dark secret that changes everything. This is my story, a story of heartbreak and difficult choices. Let's dive into the first chapter. I always believed my marriage was strong. My wife and I had been together for years and our connection felt unbreakable. I trusted her completely. We shared everything, and she was my confidant, my partner, my best friend. But recently, something had changed. It was subtle at first, a shift I couldn't quite put my finger on. She was always on her phone, scrolling and typing away, her attention often elsewhere. She'd come home later, with vague explanations about work or seeing friends. The warmth between us seemed to cool, and a distance grew in its place. At first I dismissed my feelings, convincing myself that I was overthinking things. After all, I trusted her, and I didn't want to be the insecure spouse. But as the days passed, my unease grew. She became increasingly protective of her phone, hiding it when I glanced her way or silencing notifications when I was nearby. She'd laugh at something on the screen and then shut down if I asked what was funny. My questions were met with strained smiles and short answers, and I began to feel shut out. One evening after she'd gone to bed, I reached a breaking point. I needed to know if my fears were justified or if I was imagining things. With a heavy heart, I picked up her phone and found myself facing a reality I hadn't wanted to consider. The messages I found confirmed what I had feared but couldn't fully believe. I was blindsided, realizing that the trust I'd held so tightly had been broken. The hurt was indescribable. The person I thought I knew, the marriage I thought I had, it was all unraveling. At that moment, everything changed, and I knew life would never be the same. One night, as she sat on the couch, absorbed in her phone, I accidentally caught a glimpse of her screen. A message flashed, a name I didn't recognize, with words that felt far too intimate for comfort. My heart sank. I felt a wave of dread settles in, confirming the suspicions I'd been trying to push aside for weeks. My mind raced, but I knew I couldn't ignore the signs anymore. If something was truly wrong, I needed to face it. I decided to confront her, determined to keep calm and collected, hoping beyond hope that there was a simple explanation. I wanted this to be a misunderstanding, something we could laugh off later. I took a deep breath, walked over to her, and gently asked, "Is there something going on that I should know about?" At first she looked stunned, caught off guard, but instead of the reassurance I hoped for, she grew defensive, her face revealing more than her words could. She fumbled for an answer, her tone shifting as she tried to brush off my question. I could see her unease, the tension in her body as she avoided my gaze. The more she spoke, the more her words felt hollow, and I knew something was deeply wrong. At that moment, the illusion I'd held on to so tightly began to shatter. All the small signs, the guarded glances, the quiet evasions, came together like pieces of a puzzle I wished I'd never started. Her defensiveness, the way she sidestepped my questions, her inability to meet my eyes, all of it added up to a painful truth pressing in, one I wasn't prepared to face. The air between us grew heavy with what she wouldn't say, and I could feel the distance that had crept into our relationship taking a sharper, more undeniable shape. A flood of memories surged through me, moments when I had brushed aside my concerns, convincing myself that everything was fine. But I could no longer ignore the reality before me. Each passing second confirmed what I dreaded, each excuse only deepening my sense of betrayal. A truth I'd never wanted to consider had broken through, leaving no room for doubt or denial. Denial. That night marked the beginning of a reality I couldn't escape, no matter how much I wished I could. As I looked at her, I felt the weight of everything we'd shared and everything we were losing. I knew that whatever came next would be different, and that I'd have to find a way to live with this painful, unexpected truth. If you're hooked by this story so far, hit that like button to show your support. And if you want more stories that dig deep into real-life experiences, don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications. There's so much more to come, and you won't want to miss the twist in this one. After pressing her gently but firmly, she finally looked down and admitted, almost in a whisper, that she'd been seeing someone else. The words hit me like a physical blow. My mind went blank, a mix of anger, hurt, and betrayal flooding over me. I couldn't fully process it. It was like the ground beneath me had crumbled away, leaving me suspended in disbelief. 1,000 questions raced through my mind, each one cutting deeper than the last. How long had this been going on? Who was he? Why hadn't she talked to me? I kept searching her face for answers, for something that would make this less painful, but all I saw was a stranger. The person I thought I knew, who I had shared years of my life with, had broken our trust, and I felt shattered. In a daze, I grabbed my coat and left the house. I needed air, distance, anything to escape the suffocating weight of what I'd just learned. I wandered aimlessly, barely registering where I was going, my thoughts a mess of memories, questions, and regrets. My world had come crashing down, and I couldn't stop wondering where it had all gone wrong. Had I missed the signs? Was it something I had done or hadn't done? The pain was raw, but beneath it, a sense of resolve began to grow. I needed to make a decision, one that would set the course for whatever came next. When I returned home later, exhausted and still numb, I found a letter waiting on the kitchen table. My wife's handwriting was unmistakable, and my heart pounded as I picked it up, unsure if I was ready for what she had to say. I sat down, bracing myself as I began to read. In the letter, she explained everything. She wrote about the disconnect she'd felt between us, a gap that had quietly grown over time. She described the loneliness that had seeped into our marriage and how, in a moment of weakness, she had sought comfort in someone else. She expressed her confusion, her regret, and the guilt that had eaten away at her every day. It was painful to read, her words hitting me harder than any conversation we could have had. But then came the twist that stopped me in my tracks. She revealed that the affair was already over. She had ended it weeks ago, realizing how deeply she didn't want to lose what we had built together. She admitted she still loved me, that her mistakes were a reflection of her own struggles and not a lack of love for me. She wanted a chance to rebuild, to try again, knowing how much she'd hurt me, but willing to do whatever it took. As I read her words, I felt a storm of emotions wash over me. Anger, relief, sadness, and, unexpectedly, a glimmer of hope. She had hurt me deeply, but her letter showed a raw honesty, a vulnerability I hadn't seen in her for a long time. Her confession revealed not only her remorse, but also the struggles she'd been carrying alone, struggles I hadn't fully understood. For the first time in a while, I began to wonder if there might be a path forward for us, even if it wouldn't be an easy one. I knew it would take time, and that rebuilding trust would be an uphill climb. We'd have to face the wounds she'd inflicted and confront the reasons why our connection had frayed in the first place. Part of me longed to try, to find the strength to forgive and see if we could grow from this. Another part of me feared that forgiveness wouldn't be enough, that the memory of her betrayal would cast shadows over any attempt to rebuild. But despite my doubts, I felt something in me shift, a small spark of hope that maybe, just maybe, we could learn to love each other again in a new way. Standing there with the letter in my hands, I felt a weight pressing down on me, a choice I wasn't sure I was ready to make. Forgive her, try to rebuild what was broken, or walk away, leaving the years we'd shared behind. My heart ached with the intensity of it all, torn between love and the pain of betrayal. I wanted to believe that what we had was stronger than her mistakes, that love could somehow survive this. But part of me doubted if trust, once shattered, could ever be pieced back together. In that moment, every memory we'd made together flashed through my mind, both the beautiful ones and the ones I now questioned. I wanted to forgive, but the hurt was real, a reminder that some wounds don't heal easily. Standing alone in the kitchen, I was left questioning whether love could be stronger than betrayal, if we could rebuild without constantly looking back at what had broken us. I ended up putting the letter down, realizing I didn't have an answer. Not yet. Sometimes life doesn't give us easy resolutions or clear paths. I walked away from the table, understanding that whatever choice I made would take time and strength, and that the journey ahead, whether together or apart, wouldn't be simple. Love, I realized, is both fragile and resilient, capable of enduring, but not immune to breaking. And in that moment, I knew that the hardest part of love is facing the choice to stay or to walk away. Thank you for joining me on this journey. Life throws us unexpected challenges, and sometimes we're forced to face decisions we never imagined. If this story resonated with you or made you think, leave a comment and share your thoughts. Remember, every story has more than one side. Stay tuned for more, and I'll see you in the next video.